Morning guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. On my way to my Schutzen Club this morning. I've been going and working this shepherd that I've got. And we started out with a customer that had imported him over, and a colleague, a friend of mine, got me the account because he was so busy with his kids and his life going on right now he couldn't do the work. So he gave the account to me in regards to handling the client. Still his client, but so I spent a couple months building that dog and doing all the obedience and all that. And I've still got him in my hands because, as most people that watch my feed know, the gentleman's wife got upset about the dog being a dog hair, dog stinks, this, that. So he ended up getting forced to have to place the dog. So he asked me to do that for him. We're trying our best right now to find a qualified buyer. And what do I mean by qualified buyer? I mean that we're looking for a person that will give this dog a life instead of just leaving him on the couch, right? Real important to me anyway. So I've felt really good about this account by virtue of what I've done to build this dog. This dog is all that and then some. We were building him to start with personal protection. And so his main problem was being such a strong dog and being imprinted over there with all the equipment. And when you build a puppy and you're dealing with puppies, it's getting them used to the equipment, building confidence, all the stuff that happens in puppy development. But when you're building a dog for Schutzen to the levels that this gentleman, is the breeder, has in his repertoire and in his skill levels, because he's been to USV and his dogs are all that and then some. It's just an amazing dog to me. I don't get that many dogs of this caliber, right? So yesterday, getting back on the subject of why I started this Yack session, I just fell on Oscar Mora's podcast with Cesar Milan. And as most of you guys know, I've been hanging around Cesar. I did way back in the day for 2 or 3 years, was basically eat, breathe, and sleep dogs, and we were doing a lot of stuff together. I mean, we went to Arizona, did a tabletop seminar. We were all over the place. You know, I can remember the times that we were driving in his van, 20, 30 dogs in a van, a little Astro van that we used to drive around that he had back then. Had a separator in the back, and all the dogs would be in back. They'd be loose. They'd be all together, all the pitties, shepherds, all of them. And we'd go out and we'd give the dogs what they needed. So that's kind of why I started this Yack session. I wanted to talk about that when I saw a post that Oscar did saying it was one of his favorite podcasts, the interview that he just did. And it was interesting because I just saw it yesterday. It just came up on my feed. So I started watching. I didn't follow through and watch the whole thing, but I know Cesar pretty well, or I did. And he hasn't changed much. He is who he is. He's a very unique individual, very unique. And I met Cesar when he was talking to Oscar about his history. He was talking about working at a kennel and then doing his auto detail on the side. And he would go in the afternoon after he did all the kennel work. He would go over to this guy's shop that had it was a guy that had the limos and all that. It was a limo guy. And so he would rent out the limos and everything, and he needed a detailer. Well, Cesar was doing the detail work for him. And that's kind of where that time period that I met Cesar. And it was before he had met his girlfriend Illusion that became his wife, and that's where Andre was born. That's Andre's mother, and I think that's also his other child's mother. So I fell out of the picture soon after Andre was born, and we fell apart, and I was off doing something else. And then Cesar ended up getting that connection with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. They were around back then. They would come to his place on 163rd in South Central. And the Red Man, I remember the Red Man, Will and Jada, and a lot of the Hollywood underbelly, the rappers and all that kind of thing. That's kind of what his clientele base was. And then he ended up having Will Smith and Jada, ended up introducing him to getting that appointment with National Geographic, and so he was at the right time, at the right place, at the right time, and he ended up getting that appointment, and then that got him the gig. And I wasn't in the picture at that time. I'd already floated off on my own, so I didn't get to see any of his development towards the Hollywood but I call him now. I call him the Hollywood. So in a general sense, that's when I was around him. And there's a lot of stories I've gotten to tell because I was living on his place in 163rd. We would drive every morning and go out and exercise the dogs. But one of the biggest things I remember with Cesar was his philosophy about fulfilling the dog's psychological needs. And he doesn't talk about it as much as he did back then, but it was really an integral part of his services to his clients, because it was more about, it wasn't about heel, sit down, stay. It was about balancing the dog like it is today, even with the pack, using the pack to balance the dogs. And so it was all about fulfilling the dog's psychological needs. And what did he mean by that? It was travel, food, exercise, and the packs interchange. And he would always be out there. We'd get out, let's say we went up to the Hollywood Hills, and I never thought about it back then, but he would go to places that were all about Hollywood, and I didn't think anything about it. I just thought these were the places that we could go exercise the dogs, up in the Hollywood Hills and the trails. But that's where all those people live. They've got all their real fancy mansions and all that. And then we would go to the beach, and the beach, again, same thing. It would be all where the money was at, right? And I look back now and I say, well, that was pretty stupid, because I didn't see it. I just saw that we needed to go out and fulfill the dog's psychological needs by giving them these things that they needed, which was exercise and pack interchange and, follow the pack leader. We'd go up to the Sierra Madres, and I showed him a spot up there that's above Santa Anita, that there's a really cool trail that goes down and goes into this valley. And it's about a 4-hour trip down and back up, And so we would get off, you get out of the van, and 20, 30 dogs come piling out without leashes on, and people's jaws drop. Oh my God, what the hell, And then he would put these little slip leashes on the dogs, so he had them on leashes, and we would go out into the areas that we were doing the exercise for the animals. And we would head on down the trail. Like that one picture that he's got with all the whole pack, and he's going, that's up in the Hollywood Hills. I know exactly where that's at, because we used to go there all the time, right? It might have been me taking the picture for all I know, because I did a lot of video of him back in that time. He had a little small camera and always had me videoing when he was at Mark here, and he'd give me the camera, and I was the cameraman. He probably took a lot of that video to the National Geographic appointment, and that's probably what got him his gig. And then he was working where he had his place on 163rd was in the back of the Salvation Army. That was it. There's a bunch of South Americans that owned the Salvation Army hub in LA, and it was a big old dock, and all the women would come in every morning and sort the clothes, because it's a lot of the clothing. Shoes, clothes, and how they make their money is knowing the product. So in Japan, jeans are real popular, right? So they would know which ones had more value. It's like going and swapping the collectors that would collect all this stuff. And then Salvation Army has always got things that they've got available in that regards, because of the fact that that's our society is kind of a throwaway society. The old man passes, and the wife of the family now needs to get rid of all his clothes and all his stuff and everything, and so they take it to the Salvation Army. So where that's at, right in the hood, on 163rd, and where they're in the garment district down there, South Central, there was all the bums and all the drug addicts and everything, tagging, and all the antiquated railroads that go through that whole area. At one time it was very active, but nowadays you go back there and it's all torn apart, and there's nobody there. All they're doing is breaking into places and stealing everything and ripping everything apart, with what's going on in the hood. It's just the way it is. So Cesar worked out a deal with the dude to have his dogs be back there and have them on property where that solved the whole problem, right? Nobody's going to bust into a place with a bunch of Rottweilers and pit bulls running the fence line, So that was the environment, and I went on hard times at the time, and I ended up staying at his place. I was living on the couch and traveling everywhere with him, down on my luck, just the way life is, It'd be great if everything was always perfect, but we don't have that, Life is life, it comes and slaps you in the face. So we would travel all over the place in that little small van and pile out of it and go exercise the dogs. And we'd come back, and he'd go to the Mexican meat market, and he'd buy us big old hawk bones and things, and he'd boil that hawk bone, make a big old pot of rice on an outdoor burner and in the yard, and feed the dogs. So it was all about food, travel, fulfilling the dog's psychological needs in about 4, 5, 6 different aspects, and that's the service he gave. He was basically, like he said, he was a dog walker first, so he put that all together. He wasn't thinking about heel, sit down, stay. That's the world that I came from, structured obedience and all that stuff that goes with it, right? Cesar has always been somebody that I look as a homeopathic. In other words, he doesn't approach it like the normal American trainer, so that's the difference that we had. That's why I never really agreed with Cesar totally, but it was an amazing thing to see him manage that pack. That's why I hung around. I was observing the dogs, because you can learn more from observation than any other way. Stand back and watch. Even if somebody asks a question, it's not the right question when you're in a group, you can still learn from someone. When they handle their dog, when I went to Oscar's place for that most recent workshop he just had with Chris Syke, it was about watching the people and their interactions with their dogs, and then the accent points that Oscar or Chris was pointing out to that person when they were handling their dog, and the stories that Oscar would put out in regards to educating and teaching the people that were in the room, And it was a great seminar. I really enjoyed the hell out of it. So back to Cesar. Cesar is a very unique individual. There is nobody like him, And I look back at it, and I wish I still could shake his hand and make him realize that I have no amount of animosity about our past. You know what I mean? And no matter what he feels, one day maybe we will. One day maybe he'll let it go. Maybe if I drive up there right now and knock on his door, maybe he'll let me in. Who knows? You know what I mean? But it was 2-3 years of hanging with him, and I met him at a kennel in Gardena, Glendale, wherever the hell it was at. It's a 150-run kennel, and he was scooping shit and taking care of dogs, bathing dogs. And I had come through the front door of my normal way of doing things with a dog. It was a demo dog. Gave my demo, presented myself, and they hired me as a trainer. So I started hanging with Cesar and started to do what I always do. I'm always trying to teach, educate, and mentor. But there was a lot of things that we didn't totally agree with. So it is what it is. But there is, like I said, it was just brought back some memories when Oscar was saying one of his favorite podcasts, and he posted it out. Made me think about it. And then I saw it, a good half of it yesterday with him and Cesar walking down the way, and I got to see Cesar's place and started to hear him describe why he's designed it the way he's designed it. I think this is one of the best podcasts or best presentations I've seen of somebody actually bringing out in Cesar, talking about why he put in. He's got a replica of a doggy park, and it looks just like the gates that you go into a doggy park, and it's all laid out just like a dog park. Totally cool. And then he's got a method of the madness of why he's put it together in regards to educating the people that come up to see him. That's Cesar. He's definitely got his unique philosophies and opinions and direction towards the dogs that is totally unique, and he hasn't been taken into the overall society's concepts of what they think and what they do. He's very unique. He's there's nobody like him. It's just the way it is. So, Cesar, if you're watching this, give me a call, dude. You can get a hold of me. Let me go up there. We don't need to have no film, or maybe we could. I don't know. I'm pretty good at yakking to the screen. So, I'll talk to you guys later. So, good podcast, Oscar. That was an excellent one. I'll talk to you soon, man. Late.